Hello, hello, hello. This is Danny Ceballos with Unleash Consulting and your best boss, Take Five. As a reminder, I work with heart-based and social justice managers and leaders to become the best bosses possible, the best people leaders possible. If this is you, I hope we'll stay in contact. And if this is somebody that you know, I hope you'll think about putting me in touch with them. I really am on a mission to change the world one manager at a time, especially those managers that are looking to make the world a better place. And I bet you that's you. So we're going to continue with our theme this month on what it takes to lead and manage remote teams. So we're going to build on what we talked about last time and continue on with two more best practices. These are things that we know from the current research and the current best practices on what works best for managing and leading remote or hybrid teams. Specifically, we're going to be talking about today about intentional communication rhythm and digital first documentation. So what is intentional communication rhythm? Well, the core practice for intentional communication rhythm is to establish predictable communication patterns that prevent isolation and information gaps. Again, to establish predictable communication patterns that prevent isolation and information gaps. In other words, you can't over communicate in the virtual environment. You can't. Well, we're not there yet anyway. So I don't want you to worry too much about that. Again, as I mentioned in the last video, what part of the problem is that we have folks when they are in the virtual environment that really take advantage of their autonomy and don't necessarily give us what we need by way of communication and work product and productivity. And so we want to be super clear with our expectations and with our communication. So what you need to do is to start thinking about how on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, hourly basis, sometimes you will intentionally communicate with your team. Now, obviously, if you have a team of 2 to 3, 4 people, it's a lot easier to do this. But even with your team of 50 to 100 or more, the onus is on you to create, to support, to follow through on a communication pattern that people can depend on. So we know when we do this, we see a few things. We see a 40% reduction in redundant communication. We see a 65% increase in team alignment and how they score around that. And we see a 30% decrease in decision-making time. Some real life examples of how that works are, well, we'll take a look at two organizations. One is Buffer, a large online organization, who has the 3-3-3 method, the 3-3-3 method. They insist on a 3-minute daily text update. So that comes from all members of the team, and it goes back from you as the supervisor as well. So it's akin to the in real life huddle that we typically have. It's the idea that on every morning, at the beginning of the morning, we take a few minutes to text each other and say, this is what I'm working on. This is what I need help with. These are my plans for today. 3-minute daily text updates. Number 2 is a 30-minute weekly team call. And number 3 is a 3-hour monthly strategic session. So that's their 3-3-3 method. What's your version of a 3-3-3 method? Again, to establish a clear, understandable pattern of communication, both from you and from your people, in an expected way. Now, it doesn't take away from if you want to have an open door policy, if you want to have office hours, all those kinds of things, but just to have a super clear, this is what we will expect every month. The more folks are feeling tethered to their work in the best way possible, in a way that they can depend on the foundations that you've established for them, the better off that they'll be, that you'll be, and the organization will be. And the second piece that I wanted to talk about was this idea of digital first documentation. The core practice for digital first documentation is that we create and maintain accessible current team knowledge bases. Again, we create and maintain accessible current team knowledge bases. So the idea of this is that more so than pre-pandemic in the in real life world, where we depended on all kinds of communication, in our new virtual hybrid world, we need to really lean into the idea of digital communication. And honestly, in the world of AI that we're in right now, just finding ourselves in, it's easier than ever to do that. I really want to encourage you, if it's possible in your organization, to look at AI functionality, especially it has to do with summarizing meetings, Zoom meetings that you're on. I personally am a huge fan of Fathom, use Fathom all the time, specifically the summary meeting function, whether I'm doing one-on-one client meetings or I'm working with a group or a team or even an organization. I find that group summary function incredibly helpful. So, the point of this is that we really want to start creating a digital warehouse, if you will. That's not quite right. A digital communication where we put everything, where folks can access this on a regular basis and know how to navigate it. So in other words, everything and anything, any kind of decisions that are made, any kind of team processes, anything that is worthwhile for having to help clarify or to remind or to give to people because they missed a meeting, you want to put into a library of sorts, a communication library. So Notion does something called single source of truth. Every team decision and process documented is in a shared workspace. Atlassian has a team playbook. This is a living document of team norms, processes, and decision frameworks. And then lastly, Zapier has small council documentations. And this is weekly leadership decisions are documented and shared company-wide. So those are just 3 examples of best practices that we know work out there. What will be your expectation, your policy for digital first communication? Digital first communication. All right. We're at 7 minutes now, so I'm going to let you go. Looking forward to seeing you on our next Best Boss Take 5. This is Danny Ceballos with Unleashed Consulting. Be the best boss you can be. Bye now.